All right, I want to start this story because we're talking about Skift, B2B travel. So I thought let's start about probably one of the most consequential years in the travel industry, which was 2000. Travel industry went from...
You mean 2020?
2020, that's at 2000, 2020.
Were you even born in 2000?
Yeah, I'm not that young, Rafat. I am a 1980s baby. So I am not as young as you think I am, though. I'll take that as a compliment, the grade notwithstanding. All right, so according to Claude, in the year 2020, the travel industry went from 9.2 trillion in global GDP in 2019 to losing 4.5 trillion in 2020. Massive, almost 50% cut. Mm-hmm. Your entire business is about travel.
Right.
Subscription, sponsors, events, all of this tied up into one thing, and then that industry gets cut in half. What did that do to Skift, and has it fundamentally changed how you think about building and operating this business post-pandemic versus pre-pandemic?
The answer to the second question is easy. Yes, 100%. In good ways, mostly. By the way, we're sitting here in April 2026. Parts of what's happening in the world feels a bit like sitting in April 2020.
Really?
With travel is affected.
Yeah.
Not as badly, hopefully not as badly. Who knows what the world,
and we're talking like the geopolitical, like people's
certainly
willingness
Middle East
to come.
is been affected, but now it's not just, as you know, it's like fuel prices and people's fears and all kinds of stuff happening. So just over the last few weeks, we've been thinking deeply, and sort of there's a muscle memory and trauma, if you will, of March 2020, March, April, May, June, I would say were the worst trauma months, if you will, because you're trying to rescue the business. One of the things that I've thought through but not really verbalized much, except for internally with my co-founder, Jason, who you know well, is like March, April, May, June felt, and we were at that point, 8 years into our journey, because we started in 2012. It felt very early days of Skift because we were trying to rescue the business, meaning we were going back, like when in 2012, 3 of us were starting the company, it was back and forth. Like it just, can we change this on the site? And you just did one small tweak and it changed. By 2020, we were 60 people. So there were processes in place for everything. But because we were so in touch trying to save the company, it felt very existential. But it also felt exhilarating because it had this feeling of like early days of Skift. If it wasn't existential, it would be exhilarating kind of feeling. It reset the business because it forced us to make choices in so many ways. Like it's true. The most obvious one was office. So we gave up the office. We were one of the first companies to say we're permanently going virtual. We're 60 down to 40. We had to we initially furloughed, but then laid off 1/3 of the staff. That we furloughed basically all of them, laid off mostly, and obviously events went virtual. Events were a big part of our business then. It's still is a big part of our business now, and it did pre-COVID on events. This is probably too much detail this early, but our revenues on events were generally 50% tickets, 50% sponsorships. It did change, and it has changed, where it's more sponsorships, less tickets. I think it's industry, but I don't want to extrapolate from just my experience, but I think in general, one, it took a while for people to come back to physical events. 2, I think the ticket revenues have plateaued in general across the industries. You should verify this with other sectors. And maybe it's different in different sectors. So for us, sponsorships has become a bigger part of our event revenue pie versus tickets. Global forum, it's still big. US, it's still big. It's not 50-50 exactly, but it's still big. I'm going to say probably 60-40. 60% sponsorship, 40% tickets. Everywhere else, it's become a much smaller part. The more east you go, the less people want to pay for tickets because they're used to free events, maybe not as quality as what we produce, etc. So your question was, how's it changed? So fundamentally, what it also forced us to do is look at our cost structure. It also, we were also able to hire people from anywhere in the world, which meant that the cost base of the business, salaries, etc., spread around the world, lower in other places as well. So that helped. So our profitability, which we were skirting profitability pre-COVID, some years a little more than break even, some years a little less than break even. We were never in huge losses. It just was like break even. We were investing back in the business, growing fast. Now we're solidly profitable. I would like it to be higher. Like, who doesn't want it to be higher?
Sure.
So now hiring everywhere else, us being able to do events and businesses in other parts of the world with different margin thing as well. We've acquired a bunch of companies. We've acquired different styles of businesses, consulting being one that has a different margin profile. Executive search, we started on our own, that has a very different margin profile. We can go into this, but I think branded content, which was advertising, is definitely pressured. Some of it has to do with just the cycle of where branded content advertising is. Some of it really does have to do with AI and the pressures that is placing on companies thinking they can just do their own. Like, this cycles you and I have seen in many different ways of internet over the last, 15, 20 years. So definitely placing pressure. Research we were a little bit worried early this year that we may see some softness as a result of companies thinking they can do their own research or whatever. It hasn't happened, but I don't see how it will not affect our business. So I want to be ahead of that. So we're sort of retooling research. We're adding more analyst time, sort of more advisory. How do we become more embedded into the businesses of our enterprise clients? Obviously, we cannot do for every subscriber, but we can do it for our more higher paying that we are, that have multi licenses, whatever. So those are the ways in which our businesses. I mean, I can keep on talking, but that's the ways in which business we've figured out how to run a global business virtually. Our team is 101 and 100, about 100 plus. We crossed 100 threshold just in the last couple of weeks, and which would have been an achievement in my brain 3 years ago. But where we're sitting now, I worry, is this an achievement now? Because everybody's looking at how AI brings the cost structure down, etc. So it's a mixed feeling, to be honest. But we're 18 countries. So we've been able to figure out how to run a business with people in 18 different time zones, which is amazing. Obviously, pros and cons to not being in a physical office.
Sure.
But the nature of our business is travel, is global. We're able to survive and thrive as a global business in media information sector with healthy margins as a result of our cost base being spread. And also our business is global. So it's just that.
I mean, it's the same thing for AMO. My editor lives in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah.
My reporter lives in London. I have a business operations person who lives in Sri Lanka, and I have a salesperson who lives in California. And
it comes from the founder, I think. Right. I mean, in this case, it has to natively come from the top, that people being okay with it. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. Different people, I think Craig probably has all his.
I think it's everyone in his office, if not most people
in his office with freight waves. Different type of business. Ours is a global sector. Yours is a global sector. So it's that.
I also think it is a function of cost basis. I was able to find a better reporter in London than I probably could have here from a cost perspective. I also think it's, for my case at least, it's been opportunistic. I found someone who was good. I'm not just because I want them to sit next to me, I'm not going to hire the person. That doesn't seem like a good business decision. On the other hand, and I've talked about this when we texted. There's something nice about being around the people you're building with, especially I think maybe at my stage where there are 5 of us, being able to, so like, when Cristiano from, in Brazil comes to town, that's fun to work because like we're talking about the stories we're going to do. We're talking about this and this, but I wouldn't trade, the cost structure of a New York City newsroom for that because then we wouldn't be profitable.
Yeah, it's just, I think I think our team, we don't necessarily verbalize the cost part with our team, but they understand naturally. I mean, like it's also, you find talent, you find talent where you find it. Yeah. The other thing we've found is that people outside of US are less manic. And I don't mean like on a personal level. I think societies are more settled, I guess. I mean, US, all the stuff happening, and it's too, like, it's very, very, there's, generally speaking, people are more, stay longer in companies.
Yeah. Outside of the United States.
Outside of US. So in general, our whatever the term is, attrition rate, turnover rate of employees is very low. But outside of US is just less, even less than US. I mean, this is anecdotal. I haven't actually done the calculations, but in my mind, it feels like people outside US are just more loyal.
When you see someone leaving the company, they tend to be US based rather
generally
than,
US based, yeah.
So you mentioned you cross 100 employees 3 years ago. That's a celebration. Today, perhaps you're questioning whether that makes sense in this era of AI. How are you thinking about AI's impact on work? Like from my perspective, where as I think about it, I don't know if I am a AI doomer in that it means that there's going to be no jobs anymore. My philosophy is I've got an editor. Could that editor be more efficient with this tool? I've got a salesperson. Could my salesperson be more efficient with this tool? So as you think about it, are you thinking, okay, we're at X revenue, we're going to get to X plus 50% faster because of AI? Or do you see we're at X revenue and we're going to get to Y margin higher because of AI faster? Like, how do you think about that?
So the answer is all of the above. I don't know the answer. Meaning, like, I can argue one way today and I can argue the other way tomorrow. Both are probably valid.
Yep.
Elements of validness in both. I, like you, embraced AI. We as a company, and I personally embraced AI when it came out. ChatGPT came out very early. Like literally, I was on ChatGPT the weekend it launched, like day 2 or something.
You had your own chat on your site.
And we had our own Skift, which is our chatbot, was our chatbot. We call it now an answer engine. And a version 3 is coming in May 2023. So that was like 6 months after ChatGPT launched because I wanted it. And I sort of saw you, and you were there all along because you've written about it. I saw the potential early. Like, we have X years of archives, we can train this chatbot, and here's how we can do it. Jason, my co-founder, Mike, who heads our engineering team, has been with us for a long time. We all sort of saw the potential and knew how to do it. Obviously, now it's so much easier and then just so much different. That back then we were putting stuff together on our own, learning all the stuff. Like every 2 months, it became easier for us to do what we were doing.
And cheaper.
Of course, cheaper, 100%. And better, arguably, as these models became a lot better. So personally, I've embraced, like I was joking with you right before this, like I talked to Claude more than collectively probably everybody else in my life, including my wife and kids at this point. Right. And talk, I really talk because I use the voice. I don't use the back and forth voice. I just use voice to dictate text into whatever, and then I read whatever it comes back with. And so I run my company today on my Claude brain. So in the stories and the posts that I write, I say, like, I came up with this using my Claude brain, so I'm not hiding anything.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not using its output like copy paste, but I'm, whether it's writing, whether it's internally doing, but it's helping me. It really is my thought partner. I'm They can put me in an ad campaign and probably exactly what the thing they want.
Yep.
I can show I am that person. It's being used internally across the company. At this point, consciously, unconsciously, I'm gonna evaluate people in my company based on how much they're using AI or not using AI. Like, how can I not at this point?
Right. You would do the same thing if they weren't using a computer.
Correct.
If they were writing all their notes and trying to submit articles that way, you would do the same thing.
Yeah. And our teams have been, and again, it comes from the top, but also from the team leaders. If the team leaders are not using it, then their teams will be less at this point. But I think at this point, I don't think there's a resistance to using it by anybody. Like, it's just is air at this point. From a tools perspective, from tools that we're creating, Ask Skift 1.0, Ask Skift 2.0, we are morphing it into something that I can't say yet, but we're launching it with the Global Forum, which is our big conference that happens in September. Will be a full retooling of what I'll say is one of the questions. So we're doing a full redesign, rebrand of Skift, which we haven't done in a long time. Mm-hmm. This logo has been there since like 2016 or something. When we did a full rebrand, redesign. We've done facelifts since then.
Yeah.
So we're going in for a full redesign, rebrand. And with it, the biggest question that I went in with the brief that we created for the agency bake-off, we talked to 6 agencies. In the brief, which obviously Claude helped me come up with, was the question, if we were to start Skift all over again today, what would the interface layer look like? Mm-hmm. Like how you as a user, reader, whatever you want to call it, would interface with Skift. And the answer is not just cliche, it will be AI first. Because that, like, what does that
doesn't
mean?
Anything.
Like, what does that mean? Underneath it is where all the work lies. Of like, how do we think through the interface? And yes, the atomic unit of a story remains, but then what gets enhanced in it? How do we have the back and forth question-based thing that we have elements of with Ask Skift 1.0, as it doesn't have to be this thing on the side, it has to be baked into everything. So that's what we're building towards, and you'll see when it comes out.
So when you say the atomic unit of a story, do you mean an article or do you mean like
a
concept?
The atomic unit of Skift is a story.
Right.
And the stories will continue to be stories, as in our reporters writing stories covering the industry.
So you don't think that changes as we continue to move farther into an AI world where like...
I mean, reporting as in talking to the industry and figuring out original...
Not that part, but the output, right? So writing a lead, writing a nutcraft, writing an 800-word article,
could be.
That changes?
Yeah, that...
is this the death of the article?
It's been predicted
I know.
So many times, man.
That and the death of the homepage are the 2 most predicted things in our industry.
Yeah, and we keep coming back to it in various ways. Yeah. And I think it's I don't know if it's not death, but it's some sort of a rebirth in a different form.
Are we all going to look like Axios with smart brevity?
Some version. Yeah, I mean, it already is.
Yeah.
ChatGPT's output is all like bullet points, always, all the time. Certainly not stories, but you got to come to the conclusion pretty quickly in stories. I mean, AI summaries are always, we had AI summaries a lot before Bloomberg started doing it. So we're thinking about that. We're thinking about how research becomes more embedded into organizations that we create the research for. This is our subscription product. Events, we're in the middle of this, is a live thought process and work going on, which is events, which is content, right? Mm-hmm. It's events being created. How do we do a pre-event content phase, during event content phase, and post-event content phase? Because now it's a lot faster to do it because you have transcripts and AI and research and et cetera, you can all put in and generate. So for our India Summit that happened in March, it's called India Intelligence Summit. It was sort of a closed door, 100 people, different model than our previous events. It was actually a very good 4-hour only event, second half of the day type thing, a new format for us. We did a pre-event briefing, came out from our research side on they benchmarked inbound, outbound, and domestic tourism in India. They used a lot of analysis from AI, but it was created by the research team. Was a huge hit for the people who were there. Like so many people came up to us in this 100+ people, said that was very helpful. It was a great read to me, to different people on our team. So certainly we're going to do that now for every event. Our event in Bangkok is, as we're recording this, our Bangkok event, Skift Forum Asia, is coming up in 2 weeks. So we have a pre-read that's going out in the next week. And then different formats of pre-read. That serve as a promotional tool for the event.
Yeah.
I'm sure you may do something like that for your own event. Like it's just possible. You just ask Claude, in this case, literally like, here's what we do, give me ideas. And it gave an idea. It created a calendar. It said, here's a universe of 10 things you can do, which obviously will not do 10. We may do 4. But at least we now know we now have a structured way of thinking about it and an ability to shortcut with the resources we have. So that to me is very exciting on how to think about events, almost like an intelligence system that then feeds into the corpus of content that AI then helps us analyze and feeds into whatever the Ask Skift becomes that we're launching in fall this year.
In July, we talked because you had made a number of acquisitions, and we're going to talk about those. But at the time, you said that you guys were approaching $25 million in revenue for 2025, 20% EBITDA margins, 0 debt, and 8 figures in cash.
Yes.
Did you finish the year where you wanted to be?
A little lower than 25 million.
Okay.
But, and a little lower on EBITDA. Part of it has to do with, and believe it, this is like the silliest of things, but the cost of everything has risen.
Yes.
And with events as well, particularly event costs, which you factor in going into the year, but turns out it's even more than that.
I didn't know they were adding an admin fee to my catering bill until 2 weeks out.
So that definitely affects the margins of the business. So then we have to, so in the ballpark, both of those numbers. And third thing you said, so EBITDA.
Just 8 figures in cash.
8 figures in cash. Yeah, 8 figures in cash goes up and down.
Yeah.
It's a cash flow.
Yeah.
And
it's a healthy business, though.
Yeah.
It's a very healthy business.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is to hopefully never go below high single-digit millions in the bank.
I seem to remember a few years ago when the Silicon Valley Bank fiasco happened.
Yeah,
you were affected by that.
Yeah. I was 7-8 million in the bank. I think at that point, 2023.
Was that worse than COVID or better than COVID?
I mean, it was COVID compressed in like, I don't know, 48 hours. Yeah. It was, I don't think, I may have cried during COVID, but definitely I cried during this because I thought it was done. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
I was not going to get any money back. I didn't know the mechanics of how government will intervene or does intervene in these types of cases. I just had a vision in my head that, your money is gone in bankruptcy proceedings, you get pennies on the dollar.
But in the meantime, you still have to run your business without the pennies.
And I had to make the payroll on a Monday.
Yep.
So all of it happened over like Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And like 5 of us in the team knew, and the rest of them had no idea, except they were reading the news. But many of them don't know that we have a bank, like Silicon Valley is a bank. Unless you're in sales or whatever, then maybe you know.
Right.
Because the checks are not coming from Silicon Valley Bank, they're coming from the company. And so, and Monday morning, we have a meeting, our company-wide meeting at 11 a.m. We just changed it to 10 last week after 10 years of us doing it at 11. 11, we were not sure until the morning of Monday whether we were going to send a memo to say, here's what's happening. Or we're going to say, here's what happened and it's solved. Turns out it was solved by the time I wrote a memo over the weekend to the team to post on Basecamp, which is what we use, at like 9 a.m. or something, if I'm not mistaken. And by the time the memo time came, I changed the thing saying, here's all what happened. But the good news is
We're
it's
good.
all solved.
So I think it was 8 years ago, in one of the many interviews you've given, you said that your goal was to, and this is pre-advisory, pre-recruiting, you wanted the business to be about a third subs, events, and branded content.
Yeah.
I know you commented that branded content is under pressure. The business has evolved, advisory, recruiting. As you look at each of those kind of different components of the business from a revenue, is there a new sweet spot for you, or do you not think about it that way?
Now it's it all. We do think about it of everything feeding into each other. Like, how can I not? If that seems a waste of our efforts, if one doesn't feed into the other beyond the revenue that it brings in. And I think that's the criteria which we look at expanding. Is like, yes, I look at it from a sense of how much revenue it will generate, but then how much revenue will enable in other parts of the business. Otherwise, like, what's the point?
Right.
So whatever the flywheel thing that every business wants, the flywheel. Like
Right.
every
this
deck will
leads to
have
this, leads to
Correct.
this, more
Correct.
of this, yeah.
So advisory 100% leads to executive search, vice versa. Research leads into advisory. Our events lead into everything because you are in a room for 1 day, 2 days with clients and potential clients for all of our businesses. So that's how we think about it. That's how we look at acquisitions as well. Like one of the biggest criteria that I use, and it's been, I don't think it's scientific, but it's sort of how we look at it. It's how it's emerged over looking at so many businesses now. The business that I'm looking at, can I double the business revenue-wise in a 1 to 3 year horizon? Mm-hmm. Meaning there's enough growth left. 1 is hard, 3 feasible.
Yep.
Aggressive but feasible. If I don't see the possibility, we pass. And that's a criteria that's worked for us. Also, if there's print in it, we immediately say no. Just will never look at the business. No matter if it's, 80%, whatever margins it is, I do not care. Because what we do know is that, at some point we'll exit. The buyer who will look at us will immediately take that down to 0.
Mm-hmm. So it does you no favors.
And it's just like, it's a different rhythm, sure, custom stuff that you and I know very much, you've written about, you've seen, I have done, I think you did in your previous company maybe. We still do that on and off. We did it more before COVID, but less now. So we don't look at print.
Print from the traditional B2B sense, which is like controlled circ, or like would you, if there was a quarterly business journal that was a $200 a year print subscription?
No, we just won't look. It's just focus on just the digital and offline as opposed to a print mechanics.
Yeah. Why advisory and recruiting? Because most media companies don't really offer a recruiting arm, and advisory even less so.
So some of these decisions, why they don't, is based on their calculations, on their valuations. Mm-hmm. I don't have those pressures. I will do what's best for my business in terms of completeness of services that we offer to the industry. How do I become more, that's the biggest criteria. How do I become more valuable in their daily work lives or strategic lives or whatever, work in their work by us offering services, while staying within our larger rubric of, we're never going to be a software company.
Right.
So in the information intelligence space, defined broadly, that's where we're going to stay. That's kind of how I look at the business. Advisory was opportunistic, yes, but also, so the company that we bought, then called 2031, now called Skift Advisory, was purely focused on tourism boards, as in one part of the travel industry, not on hotels, not on airlines, not on cruises, on online travel, was focused on serving destinations, on their marketing strategy, generally strategy, consulting. And we didn't have a product in the tourism space, even though editorially a lot of people read us all the tourism boards read us. We didn't necessarily get tons of advertising from them. We did start getting from our meetings industry sector because they want to attract these destinations.
Right.
But we didn't necessarily have like visit Florida doing campaigns on Skift.
Correct.
So we weren't getting money from it. So we said we need a product in the tourism space. So that was one of the criteria looking at it. 2, we thought we could expand beyond tourism into other parts because we are obviously known across the industry in different sectors, which we have over the years since we acquired them. And also, again, it was we used to say no to any type of custom research queries that we used to get because we didn't have the capability or expertise, or it was too one-off. We didn't have like dedicated team doing that stuff. All of that has now been addressed by Skift Advisory. We have expanded into, we still focused on strategy consulting. We're not going to go into like real estate valuation or advise airlines on what planes to buy. Like that's not our thing.
Right.
We strategy consulting. Brand marketing, consumer segmentation, closer to the consumer type consulting, like repositioning of, we're doing a work for a very large real estate company that owns a hostel brand that is trying to rethink what hostels should be because now they want to rejuvenate this brand. So we just finished the project recently. So that's an example of using our corpus of knowledge and our people who understand consulting. These are people who are consultants that are not part of our other teams.
Right.
Obviously, we all learn from each other, all the stuff that we do. We have figured out how to promote advisory and research and executive search. One of the interesting things is executive search converts the best with me just saying on stage that we have executive search. Because very in the moment thing, like there are 500 people in the room. I'm doing my opening talk. And this is a true example. We last year or the year before, we just launched our AI conference, and we had also launched our AI. We just launched our executive search practice, and I gave the opening, whatever, welcome and this and that, and here's the new things coming at Skift, and we just launched an executive search, and like somebody in the back of the room was standing in the back saying, we need to hire a head of AI, and that guy talked to Steve, who was there in the room, who heads our Skift, and that became a client. So it's just. It's interesting that executive search conversion funnel is sometimes it takes a long time, but from event promotion to actual lead is the shortest that I've seen, which is interesting.
So it's an example of event revenue then leads to recruiting revenue simply because you have both businesses and they kind of work together.
They kind of work together, and the same people in the room have those needs.
Right.
And so that's kind of what it is.
So you guys launched in 2012. July 2020, 8 years after launching, you roll out your Skift Pro.
Which is our daily news.
Daily news.
Yeah.
You're when someone thinks subscription business, this is the subscription business.
Correct.
You waited 8 years to kind of pull the trigger.
That was a free trial for 8 years.
Yeah, right. Did you make the decision to do that because of COVID, or did you make the decision to do that because you always knew at some point you were going to do it?
So element of that, it was latter. I don't fully recall what moment, but we had made the decision before COVID happened. And the reason we were able to build the subscription system ourselves, we built it this quickly, so to speak, in COVID was not because we said on March 20th, let's build it was ongoing for a while. Jason and his team, my co-founder, had been building it for a while. And so it just so happened that the decision to launch it in July was because advertising revenues were gone.
Right.
And so, or very small compared to what it was pre-COVID or right before COVID. And so we needed to survive. So it was a necessity for us to get revenue somewhere else, and that was subscription. At this point, for all intents and purposes, Skift is a fully subscription site. We have like one article a month, and even that and we're using this tool called Pool. I don't know if you know Pool.
I know Pool, yeah.
Which we just came on as a client, I think like 2-3 months ago, this year.
Yeah.
And they allow like dynamic configuring of the paywall using whatever the signals that we're getting. So for many people, it's fully gated, which means that we're, for all effects and purposes, a subscription business, subscription site fully from a news perspective. And obviously research is subscription. All of our specialty newsletters are. So it's a substantial part of our business now.
So 6 years later, are you happy with the outcome?
Yes, 100%. I mean, everything now is the lens of how do we convert more subscribers. That's a big part. As much as branded content is individually still a bigger part of the business than the news. And branded content obviously is free. We promote it obviously through our other channels, including email and LinkedIn or whatever else. Some of it paid at times. Our site is a paid site.
Yeah.
Sorry, a subscription site.
What percent of the business is subscription revenue at this point?
Still, it's in the high teens, percent-wise, which I would like to double in the next 3 years, but it's a tough one. Subscriptions don't take it's a longer time to scale. It's a long game at the end of the day.
Yeah, so obviously AMO has always been a subscription. It is an absolute grind of a business. Like you're basically fighting every time to prove that story is worth paying for. On like when the user lands, do they want to convert? And our subscriptions aren't cheap. It's not like a try it for 99 cents. It's pay us $150 for a quarter or pay us $395 for a year. So we're not exactly a cheap decision, even if it is a corporate card. I've come to the conclusion from a subscriptions perspective that depending on individual subscriptions is you'll never get there.
Yeah.
You have to convince the companies
to buy. And a majority of our business now on subscriptions is enterprise sales, like multi-seat licenses and companies. And in fact, this is a live thing happening right now. We have on research, which individually research was $2,000 something per year from our research team. We are killing individual subscriptions entirely. It's going to be just enterprise subscriptions because the cost of servicing them. It's not. I mean, at $2,000, not many online sales are coming.
Right.
Neither should we spend any effort at it, and so it's becoming. And also, like companies, when they downgrade, sometimes they choose to downgrade to a single. Like if Microsoft says, I don't have money and I want like one subscription, I'm not buying that.
No. Microsoft's got the money.
And so we just, I don't want to get into the argument. Our team does not want to get into the argument. So it's all going to be enterprise sales.
So let's talk a little bit about the events business. So you've walked us through, you've got the global forum, both here in New York. You've also got one in Dubai.
In Abu Dhabi now.
Yeah. You've done a number of smaller shows all over the world. You're a global travel brand. How could you not? Talk a little bit about, this geocloning of some shows, right? Taking the forum to overseas and then launching new events. Operationally, what is it like building these businesses, and what is different about an event, say, in India than an event in New York?
The dollars versus rupees.
Okay.
So there's that part. I wish all currencies everywhere is the same. I mean, everybody was able to pay dollar equivalents.
You'd be $100 million business.
The only places in the world that are able to pay dollar equivalents are Middle East.
Yeah.
And I would say Singapore probably comes close. Even UK and Europe, less.
Yeah.
And less in Europe over the years. And this speaks to the larger challenges of Europe as an economy or economic power. But Middle East, yes. So geocloning so we're covering with Global Forum, still US heavy. We get people from. So we launched early on our first ever spin-off from Global Forum was Skift Forum Europe. Initially in London, went to Berlin. And then we stopped it only because we weren't making tons of money off it. And the juice was not worth the squeeze. Then we did add Skift Forum Asia and Singapore pre-COVID. That was hugely successful. and then COVID hit. And then we have since done Middle East. We've started India as well. Some of these you do, yes, for the money, but also for like long-term strategic value.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it you do because I have 10 employees in India,
Right.
more. And one is easier for me to pull it off because they're local people.
Yep.
Cost-wise or just industry knowledge-wise, because they're not all working in the India business, they're working for the global business of Skift. Some of them are. So it just is logistically easier for me to do business, to do an event in India. The cost-wise is lower, but it's also not bringing in as much as it would bring, even Bangkok one is bringing, the one that's kind of happening, information is bringing a lot more than India. But we do India because it's a long-term market that we believe in.
It's 1 billion plus people. How can you not?
Correct. And it's a booming domestic market.
Right.
Inbound is not as good, but also booming outbound, as in Indians coming everywhere. So just from a travel industry needing to understand India, for that reason alone, we should do it. And we're doing it. This is our year 3 of doing it. Then we have, so these are geographical conferences, and then we do sectors. We started Aviation Forum. We've done some versions of a tech forum over the years. We did a hotel industry conference for a couple of years. So we cycle them in and out depending on, we did short-term rental for 2 years, 3 years. Not as much money, that's a problem, because there's a lot of long tail. Long tail is hard for us to monetize because we're sort of more high-level, big company stuff. So we have to think about that when we think about conferences. Is it too long tail? So the reason we have not done a conference in, for instance, a sector called tours and activities. These are day tours and that you would go to Times Square, for instance, here, or like a guided tour of New York. These are called tours and activities sector. Because there's just a lot of mom and pop companies versus corporations. So it's hard for us to monetize that. There are other companies that do a better job of that. We just don't have it. Again, the juice is not worth the squeeze for us. So that's how we look at it. We started an AI conference. This year will be our year 3 here in New York. New York, as much as it's costly, again, we have tons of people here. We've done conferences for 13, 14 years, and even in my previous company, I did conferences here. So for us, I know it's crazy to say, New York is the easiest to do conferences for us. Just because we're here, we know how to. It's the most expensive.
It sucks.
But
from that perspective,
we just know how to do it. It's like, it's our home. And so, and chances are, for us, we now know how to make money off in New York. We're going to charge more, sponsors are going to get more, et cetera, et cetera. So our AI conferences in its year 3 will do very well, particularly on the ticket side. It's interesting. It does better on the ticket side than on the sponsorship side. The reason I think sponsorships is just because the sector is in so much flux. And that I just don't know if it's settled enough for us to know how to sell and for sponsors to know how to spend. I think it's interesting. But we totally sell out of tickets for that one, which is great.
Your events are, and I've actually never come to one of your events. I'm going to try to come this year for the first time.
Yeah, we'll change that.
I'm going to come this year. But your events, from what I understand, are heavy on the content side and networking side.
Yeah. We have gotten a lot better at networking. We've learned.
And I'll come to that because I think there's a question from an AI perspective that I'm going to come to. But you don't have any trade shows.
No, we just don't know how to do trade shows.
Is that what it is? So you've never gone after that model just because you don't know how, or is it because you're against them? Okay.
No, I'm not against them. We go and do tons of sales or attend trade shows. Our team does. I personally, do I like them? No.
Right.
But that's not material here. We just, because it's a whole different sales cycle structure, all the stuff that you write about, about. We know how to do editorial. At the end of the day, we know how to do editorial. That's the business. And people, all the cliche in the conference sector is that nobody really sits in the room. Everybody stand outside. true for, as you know, a lot of conferences.
Not my show.
Not true for your show, not true for my shows.
Yep.
Geography-wise, it differs. Meaning, like in US, interestingly, in India, people really love to chat. So it's harder to herd them in.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore or Bangkok, you ring the bell, they all come in. So it's just like different.
It's cultural.
Cultural.
Yeah.
Europe, easier to get people in the room. US, somewhere in the middle. It's hard at times. But Global Forum has now become so big for us in terms of attendees that there's a base level of attendance there's enough base level in the room. So we've stopped worrying about it. We still have to work at it, but we stopped worrying about enough quorum in the room.
Right.
Which is, as you know, is always an issue that us organizers have to
We don't want to see blank seats.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like it's also, if you're getting these big speakers, you don't want them to feel like, oh, there's nobody here to listen to my thing. So I forget your original question.
I think that was just, why didn't you do trade shows? I think you kind of answered.
I would love to buy one. And I think we've looked at some, but as you know, or you may know this, but like there's not many independents that
they've
exist.
all been rolled up already.
They've all been rolled up, or they're big. Some of them are so big that we couldn't even afford it already.
Yeah.
So,
how many years into running your shows before you stop worrying about ticket sales? Because I still
never. Oh my God. I mean, the time, you know this, timelines on how people buy have compressed a lot.
So much.
It was after COVID, and now even more so. And so, you know, we have a heart attack up until the minute.
Yeah.
And, you know, earliest sellouts used to happen earlier. Now sellouts, if they happen the morning of.
Right.
Fine. That's great. I'll take sellout no matter what.
Yeah, because the morning of ticket price is pretty high.
Yeah. So,
but you never stop stressing.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. This is in events. You never stop stressing in different ways, and this is certainly ticket sales is a. And so, for the places where people don't want, so what we've done is for India and Bangkok and Middle East, we have just become invitation only.
Okay.
Do not want to bother. Like it's just too much of a heartburn for too little money, and we're just gonna maximize the sponsorship revenue. That's kind of how versus this part of the world.
So you and we have done, this is our third interview. 2023, I had you at the first AMO Summit. You had busted up your knee, you had your knee up and everything like that.
Yeah,
we were chilling at the Paley Center. Then last year, it was you and Imran. We were at the AMO Summit 25.
Yeah.
And now we're here in the studio. So this episode will be about an hour and 15 minutes. Panel on stage the first time was 25 minutes. This panel is 25 minutes. So collectively, you and I have spent, that work out to 2 hours and 10 minutes where I've been pulling as much information out of you.
Plus our WhatsApp chats.
Plus, I mean, yes, but those are private at least, right? Publicly at least,
yes.
I've got over 2 hours of pulling information out of you. Somebody could take the transcripts, and you posted about this on LinkedIn a couple months ago. Somebody could take the transcripts of all of our conversations, load them up into Claude, and start having a conversation with that about everything that Rafat thinks about X in those 2 hours. With all of these podcasts that exist, with all of these events that exist, with the ability to aggregate all that into AI, does content remain a driver for an event anymore? Or do we have to rethink what the event is when so much of the information that someone's going to say on stage is now being said in a podcast or, you know, on LinkedIn or anything like that, and so easily aggregated?
Yeah. It's a thoughtful question and requires a thoughtful answer. So things that we're doing, which is pre-event content, during event, different ways of doing it, giving value to people beyond just on stage. Yes, networking, but also in terms of content and post is good for the company and good for the attendees, but also it helps us fight whatever pressure that we're getting from AI, for instance. Then repeat the question one more time.
Just with the proliferation of interviews and
do you think people will want to come to listen just for so? And then networking becomes face-to-face face-to-face will always be, but you need a connecting glue for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Also, people are looking for collective experiences. In a conference, what is the collective experience? Everybody listening to Airbnb CEO. And if I can humbly say so, our specialty in how we interview Brian Chesky is different than any other place he speaks at.
Correct.
We have a body of work with him, similar to you have a body of work with me. I have a body of work with Brian Chesky. I can say, you said what you said. You said this to me, this. What about this?
Right.
And also AI now helps me prepare a lot better. So last year when I did freaking 11 interviews on stage at the Global Forum, I don't know how I got sucked into this by my team.
I'm not crying. I do the same thing.
I know, you do the same thing. AI helped me prepare for it a lot faster. But it also is able to do this pre-work, which is, when you interviewed Brian Chesky 3 years ago, he said this, ask him about this.
Yep.
So that's helped a lot. So I think that also do not discount laziness. Like people just don't have time to do what we do for them.
Which is why I think that people are still going to buy subscriptions, are still going to pay for your research, are still going to attend the events, is because, yes, they could go to Claude and ask the questions, but like you got to ask it, then pressure it, and then correct
Verify it.
Or I can trust Skift, which has been around for 14 years.
Yeah.
Skift's going to give me the right answer.
Yeah, and with our expertise behind it. So I think just don't discount laziness as or just, So somebody said this to me yesterday in some context, said, yeah, you're right. I could do it, but I just don't have the time to do it. So hence I'm going to keep paying you to do it. So similar with events. I think it's and then, we have to become smarter at adding experiential elements that help them come back or show the returns to their bosses such that they approve them for the budget again next year. So all of these things you have to think about.
I don't know the exact years, but you made an expansion, I think pre-pandemic, into restaurants and wellness.
Correct.
Tried it out.
Didn't
work, shut them down, and then referred to yourself as a one-sector entrepreneur.
Correct.
Why didn't they work? And when you look at these expansion opportunities, where's the line between a smart adjacency and a distraction? Yeah,
so in theory, that was the business of leisure, as in disposable income for people. What do they spend on? They spend on travel, food, restaurant, eating out, and wellness, whatever, spa, wellness, et cetera, et cetera. So it was going to be the business of leisure, which, by the way, Questex has that line, I think, separate from us. But obviously they're bigger and do much better at it. The mechanics of them the mechanics, economics, whatever you want to call it, are very different. Restaurants are fighting for pennies on the dollar. They're very sort of operational driven. Travel, our value is thought leadership, big picture. Nobody cares about the big picture if you're running a restaurant. Very fragmented too. I remember the conference we did, it's like, do not do a conference on, I can attend a conference on Monday because my restaurant is closed. Like imagine that in any other sector. Doesn't happen.
Right.
And then wellness, we had a newsletter, and when we realized we were not making headway into the restaurant stuff, we also shut the wellness down. We have looked at businesses since that are in travel, you would think, but they just do not share any advertiser base or readership base with Skift. Mm-hmm. That means I can't use my existing network to supercharge that business, except for operational help.
But harder than to double the business in 1 to 3 years.
1 to 3 years. So for instance, we looked at a business in aircraft leasing financing. Very specialist. I mean, the profit margins were mind-blowing. I said, oh my goodness. That was what really tempted me. Like, we should just do it for the sake of the margins. But then we talked to the founder, happened to be husband-wife founder. We had a few calls with them and said, I really want to expand into ship financing and this financing and that financing. So it was basically a leasing industry versus travel industry.
Right.
So we're just not going to look at it. I think they got sold after. So that's an example of it there. And we looked at something in the airport retail business that had advertisers from fashion and alcohol and spirits and et cetera, because they have the stores in the airports. Tempting. We finally passed on it. They got bought by somebody else. So again, an example of tempting. You would think it's part of travel or our part of travel, like what we cover in travel, but it just becomes too outside of our expertise.
Are there parts of travel that you want to be in that are core to Skift that you?
Yes. We're not in corporate travel. We're not a player in corporate travel, as in business travel.
Mm-hmm.
Such a big part of the industry. It's a complex sector. But it's the same. Like if you're flying United for leisure, you're also flying United for business.
Right.
So same client base. Buyers may be different. Obviously, this is consumers. This is corporations, Deloitte or Accenture or any other large corporation. It requires different focus. It has very insidery lingo, terminologies. Procurement comes into the play, which oh my God, is boring as well. And so we have covered it on and off editorially, but one person cannot make a big difference. No. I need a whole team. As a still sort of bootstrap plus business, we just have not had, I can't say I'm going to hire 5 people this year to be able to really have a go at business travel. Just not have that spare cash lying around.
But is that a function of that, because we talked before, 8 figures in the bank, 20% margins on a $25 million business.
And I have to keep the margins up.
Right. But, you've sort of reached this point theoretically, and I'm not there, so maybe I'm wrong, where you are bootstrapped, but the business now has the flywheel going. Could you start taking a swing? Could you hire 5 people and go after this? And
with AI involved, I can probably hire 3 people.
Right.
And have a go at it. So now you're having wheels turning in my head. So yeah, probably
does AI mean that you can go faster?
Correct. 100%. 100%. Analysis of data or just coverage itself, right. Aggregation, et cetera, et cetera. So an event there as well. Corporate travel has, I think if we were to start a trade show organically, it would be in corporate travel, in the business of business travel. There are big association events in US and elsewhere. There's some private ones, trade shows, but I think there's an opportunity for a trade show in corporate travel that if we were to start something from scratch, but we need to hire somebody who understands trade shows and how to build that. We could. So that's one. Luxury travel, which we cover. Obviously, we cover bits and pieces, but we don't have we should be more deeper into it. We are likely launching a smaller luxury closed door event this year. We're working on it for fall. Mm-hmm. So that'll be our first luxury travel event, even though we cover luxury in different parts of the business.
And that, when you say luxury travel, do you mean just the beyond 5-star hotels, the Singapore Air, the?
Yeah, it's the people. Yeah, it's the high net worth individuals right. whose needs are met by expensive travel agents or expensive trips or $10,000. You can right. There are various categories of that. You spend $10,000 on a trip, then you are in the luxury category type stuff.
One of the reasons we talk about our WhatsApp group, our chat, that I enjoy talking with you so much is because you operate in travel and you run a media business, and you could just be very myopically focused on your business, but you also just love the media industry. Maybe you have a love-hate relationship with it.
But I stopped talking about it on Twitter.
You got off Twitter almost entirely, though. Yeah. You got back on a couple weeks ago. I saw you pop up.
But then I'm tweeting links to my stories.
Right.
That's it.
But you used to be.
I don't even go on Twitter. I'm clicking the button and it goes to Twitter.
Yeah. You sent me a little thought experiment that you built with Claude, which looked at what a solo operator, you, could do if you built Skift not
when nobody knew me and I didn't have any expertise.
No, but in 2026, the X-year-old Rafat who has been in travel for as long as you have been. And the assumptions that Claude came up with is that you, by yourself, or maybe with a couple contractors, could build a $2 to $3.5 million business with 70% profit margins.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why I did this.
I can tell you why. There was a question at the bottom, and the question was, the real question this exercise surfaces is which parts of the current Skift are still operating on 2015 era assumptions about what requires human labor when AI could handle it at the same quality today?
Yeah. It's a fascinating experiment, right?
I mean, it's you buy yourself $2.5 million a year. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
No, of course not.
This is my life's work so far. My life so far is work, which is Skift. And I just was curious. I was reading. I must have been reading like this person earns that much. So like, how much would I earn? And I started, as you know, if you remember, and again, you were not in the industry then because you were too young. Like I started my career as a solo blogger in my previous company. So I was one of the original creators, if you will, back in the days. I started a few $1 million business at the end of the day, and then we hired a bunch of people. And so, what's your question on this?
Just talk about what this assumption was. Talk about what this looks like.
Yeah, I mean, if you have expertise and you have an understanding of how to build a media information business with existing roles network that I have today, with my presence on LinkedIn. So this was one of the assumptions was that because I don't care about Twitter, and I don't think people like us care about Twitter. Just in terms
you're
of
very, very active on LinkedIn. Every day you're posting.
Yeah, and it has paid huge dividends for us as a business and our profile, etc. And so I have 500,000 followers on LinkedIn, 500,000 Skift has. So we basically, sort of million plus just for Skift itself. If we were to break away from Skift for some reason, whatever, then I have enough of an audience that I can build this. And if you know, LinkedIn is more interactive, and you can, you message people, and so it's an ecosystem that I'm part of. So I mean, I can do it. I can take a lot of primary sources, as in data analysis reports or unstructured data, and use AI to create stories, which I am doing. As if you see, I'm writing a lot now.
You are.
I'm back to writing a lot, as in, when I was a journalist, I was writing. Then running Skift was harder. And now AI enables me to write a lot faster. And I'm able to poke holes at stories or things, or I write mainly opinion/analysis columns. I'm not doing the reporting.
Yep.
But how I'm doing reporting is I talk to people in the industry every day. And so I'm able to connect the threads, not in the way that our reporters do.
Yep.
I'm able to say things that our reporters will not be able to do. I have the license to. And I have the connections to. So I think that was the exercise, and it makes me feel good that post Skift I have a life that I can gainfully be employed, because I probably will never retire. I'm at an age where I'm going to turn 52 in like 10 days.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And, you have to think about the next phase of life. So, but there's no end in sight for Skift for now. But it does cross my mind.
I mean, again, 25 million in revenue, 20% margin. At some point, this business becomes. I'm sure you already get the conversations.
Yeah, so this is no secret to anybody, and anybody who's in the industry knows soft conversations always. I've been in the media industry long enough that I keep people warm. They're generally aware. Part of the reasons I'm able to disclose some of the stuff is I want them to be aware as well, indirectly. And my job is to continue to expand the margin within reason. I'm not going to be a 50% margin business. It's just not going to be.
No.
But 25% and above, you're in a good, solid range where then you're trading at multiples of EBITDA like in teens, more maybe. Enough money. And so that's I would say, medium-term goal, because we're sort of 14 years in.
Yeah, it's a long time to build a company, and to build a company as still the founder-led, majority owned by the
amazing,
founders.
Yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying it hugely. It's AI has. Ask my team; they'll tell you, supercharged me. Just the thought partner part is like bang on for me, bang on. As a virtual company where we don't have the physical proximity, this person is in my pocket, actually it's not a person, it's AI, sorry. I forgot that for a second. Is in my pocket 24/7. That part is huge and probably a lot smarter, definitely a lot smarter than me, I think.
Probably, just the collective.
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends. I guess that kind of comes back to the topic of smart versus wise.
But here's what I will say, and we can, the Claude brain that I have in my pocket is probably the sharpest brain in the travel industry from a strategic perspective that exists, because I've been talking to it for 2 years nonstop and inputting everybody else's sharp thoughts into it for 2 years.
I mean, a great high, $10,000 plus a year subscription product would be the ability to take it down.
I thought about it. Like, how do I
ask Rafat?
How do I give people access to my memory?
Yeah.
My Claude memory, and charge a subscription for it. I asked it on LinkedIn, this question, is anybody building this type of tool?
Yeah.
And a bunch of people actually commented on it. They're like mechanisms emerging.
Yeah, but we'd also know what your favorite recipes are probably. And
I would have to ring fence it. Or like some of my kids' queries and all that stuff. Or my deepest, darkest thoughts.
Right. My daughter is sick. What do I do? We don't really need to know that.
Or like deepest, darkest thoughts of like, what happens? Yeah. The world is on fire.
So we're talking a little bit about M&A. In 2017, in a Press Gazette interview, you said the main lesson from selling paid content was never sell.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about, you're 14 years in. Maybe at some point you do want to sell this business. You've got a clean balance sheet. You're the one doing the acquiring. You've built something materially larger than paid content ever was.
Yeah.
Is it just more nuanced now? This never sell philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that build as if you'll never sell. We have the optionality, a word that I think you like and I like a lot as well, and we've talked about it maybe even before. I love the word optionality, as in everything is open, everything is possible in terms of options that we can choose for the company. I do have investors that are waited patiently for 14 years at this point, 13 years. That I raised about $3 million or something over the years, seed, angel type funding. I would like to have given them the returns by now. A little bit like, my obligations to them are done,
right?
And I feel obligated still.
Couldn't you dividend them out cash?
I could bring in an investor, for instance. Options we've looked at is bring in a third-party investor that would buy out the existing investors, and it becomes a single investor on the cap table. But then they would have expectations of returns, multiples of that. Again, so I don't want. My biggest thing in life in running the business is do not make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Right.
And you know this because media businesses are hard enough to begin with. Like, do not bring in more complication than it needs to. So, so that's been on my mind, and we'll at some point we'll get bought. But I'm not running the business. I want to keep the business as clean as possible. Cap table, lines of business, margins of each business. How do we keep innovating on AI and the market or brand, et cetera, such that people keep thinking of us as a fresh, on the cutting edge understanding of the travel industry brand. I don't care about being cutting edge in media. I care about being cutting edge in who I serve, which is the industry, the travel industry.
As long as travel thinks that you're the best that there is, it doesn't matter if
there's a
better media business.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. Because my business is that. That's where I get the money from, which is why I stopped speaking at media conferences. As you know, the only reason I speak yours because it's here in New York. If you did it somewhere else, I will.
Yeah, you wouldn't get on the plane.
I just will not. Unfortunately, as much as I love you, I will probably not. I can do on a train.
Yeah.
So Philly, DC. I'll go to DC.
Okay. So now I know if I want you to speak, I know my I know my radius.
Yeah, the Amtrak corridor.
We'll get you to Boston.
But I will go to Boston.
Okay.
DC may not be a bad idea for you, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah. So is there a point in the business where you go, okay, I'm ready to start a formal process, or do you think that you'll never start a process? It'll be more of a
I think we'll start a process.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'll start a process.
Is there a number in your mind that you want to get to from a size perspective?
Yes, 100%.
What's that number?
Not telling you.
Okay.
8-figure? Is that 100 million plus?
No, 9. That's 9-figure.
That's 9-figure?
Yeah.
Okay, 9-figure.
9-figure in revenue or 9-figure in valuation?
Valuation.
Okay.
Yeah, revenue. I'll take revenue, but that's a long journey.
That's a grind. I do want to ask one more question about M&A. So investors tend to like a clean story, right? You're a subscription business. You're an events business. You're an advertising business. You are an events business, a subscription business, a branded content business, an advisory business, and a recruiting business. And all of that sits around travel, but it's multiple different revenue streams. Do you think, while that's good for Skift as an operating business, that complicates the story when you try to sell?
It does. And you and I have talked about this on stage as well as some of the stories that you've done or your team has done. I consider ourselves an intelligence business on the travel industry. And each of these are signals into the intelligence brain, if you will. And is super served on the travel industry. And the same person is interacting with these multiple products that we have. Not true all across, but you could conceptually come up with a few cohorts of people that have multiple interactions with Skift as a result of us having multiple services. Your own sponsor, Collingwood, who sponsors your conference, does a very good job with their annual report on how do buyers look at different businesses within this media information space. And I forget what the terminology they use for our type of business, which is mixed, because it's a mixed revenue line versus pure events, pure this, pure that. They have a term for it, which I forget, which was a good term. And they said, one, the events business get the best valuation in terms of multiples. And then turns out counterintuitively, the mixed businesses also get probably like second in line for the valuations that they get. I'll take that.
Yeah, so what I've seen from
their
report...
But I'm not necessarily, that's not the logic, but when I read it, I felt...
Validated.
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I looked at their last report,
last year's report was really good.
It's a great report. I mean, look, Collingwood, they put out great stuff. They're a great partner of AMO. The report that they data businesses or information businesses.
Oh, right. Our number one.
They're number one. Trade shows tend to be higher than Convex, right? So trade shows tend to do better because the margins are perhaps a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we are hearing is that investors are starting to look at mixed model more. Pure
because
play
it
trade
gives
show.
them more touch points to the audiences and more ways to sell and all the stuff that you know. So I feel like I'm not going to simplify the business for that reason. Every day I think about simplifying the business. All of us should. And I wish it was simple because then you would just have one thing to scale as opposed to 10 things to scale. But it's just, as you know, in B2B media at a certain scale, I can give you a $10 million business with 80% subscriptions. I cannot give you a $100 million business with 80% subscriptions. It just, in our sector, it's just not, they don't have the ability to pay.
Right. I would love a $1 million business with 80% subscriptions. I'm only at about 20% right now, so I've got work to do.
Events and subscriptions are if that's the bread and butter, you're fine.
Yeah. I want to end this with the same two questions I ask every operator that comes on. First, we've talked a lot about the various business models, the events, the acquisitions. For a media operator trying to figure out where to place their bets right now, what's the one thing you would tell them to focus on?
sector-wise or anything?
In their specific business. So assume everyone, not about the sectors, everyone's operating.
Oh, somebody's already running a business.
Yes. What's the bet that they should place right now for running their business or for the next stage of their business?
I think human to human, you have to double down on whatever that means for them. Events, community, et cetera, et cetera. You cannot, that is only going to increase. Yeah. So for us, our goal is like our events today, revenue-wise, percent-wise, is probably 35 towards 40% of the business. I want to have it 60% in the next 3 years while growing the other parts of the business. It future-proofs the business for whatever AI is going to do to the business. Margins are great in events if we do them right. And also feeds other parts of the business as well.
That makes so 60% events, you're in high teens subscriptions, you want to double that, so let's say 35%. Those two things kind of get you to 90, 95%. That sort of leaves other parts.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm doing the math in your head faster than you are.
You're fact-checking me in real time.
You want events and subscriptions to be a much larger part of the business.
Recurring. It's just, events, higher margins, subscriptions, recurring. 100%. What was the second question?
Second question is, what are you absolutely obsessed with right now? And it can be personal, it can be professional, it can be anything in the world. What are you obsessed with right now?
I think just like my back and forth with Claude and how do I get more out of Claude? I feel like 4.6. Give me 4.7 or whatever. Mythos.
Mythos is, they rolled that out and they're not even like,
yeah,
the marketing of that is the best thing. It's just going to put everyone, that's.
No, I just want even more even more. I feel like I've reached my, just pure Claude. I am like the super user.
Right. Are you paying their ultimate subscription?
Yes, yeah. I am paying the $100, not the $200.
Okay.
Because I'm not maxing out on 100 because mine is more back and forth text.
Right.
Some calculation, some visualization, et cetera, data I'm putting in our company data or something else. But I'm not doing like Excel sheets day in, day out. I've done Claude Code. I haven't done co-work because I just don't use my computer. And then code, I asked Claude, should I be doing Claude Code? And it says no for the work based on his or her, whatever Claude is. What do we call his, her?
I don't even know it.
Analysis based on my body of work with Claude. It said that the type of work that you do is more brain thing. So you don't need to, like, if you're thinking there's a FOMO happening there, don't worry about it. Which made me feel better.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately at this point, my life is being run by Claude. My president had a joke a few weeks ago. She said, it feels like Rafat has been kidnapped by Claude and we're going to get a ransom note very soon. So.
Well, we're going to see that $10,000 a year subscription before we know it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, good. Rafat, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.